If confidence were real, you wouldn't lose it the moment someone looks at you differently. Think about that. 1 second you feel fine, and the next second someone walks into the room, or you hear a tone in someone's voice, or you remember something embarrassing, and suddenly your confidence disappears. So what does that tell you? It tells you something uncomfortable. It tells you that what you've been calling confidence was never stable to begin with, and if it can disappear that fast, then maybe your mind has been lying to you about what confidence actually is. Because most people don't realize this, your mind doesn't measure confidence. It measures safety, and it constantly asks one question: am I safe right now? Or not? That's it. Not, am I confident? Not, am I capable? Not, am I good enough? Just one thing. Is this safe? And if the answer feels like maybe not, your mind doesn't say that directly. It translates it into something more personal. I feel awkward. I feel nervous. I feel like I'm not confident. And that translation is where everything gets messed up. Let's slow this down. Imagine you're about to say something in front of people. Nothing dangerous is happening, no real threat, but your body reacts like there is. Your heart speeds up, your breathing changes, your thoughts start racing. Now your mind has to explain this feeling, so it gives you a story. I'm not confident enough. But that's not what's actually happening. Your body is reacting to uncertainty, and your mind is labeling it as weakness. That's the first lie. Here's the truth. Most people miss. Confidence is not something you lose because it was never something you had in the way you think. What you call confidence is just familiarity. Think about it. You can talk easily with close friends. You can behave normally in places you're used to. You can act naturally in situations you've experienced many times. Why? Because your brain already knows those environments. It doesn't see them as risky. So it stays calm. And you interpret that calmness as confidence. But the moment you step into something unfamiliar, new people, new environment, new expectations, your brain goes, I don't recognize this. And it increases. Alertness. That alertness feels like anxiety, and your mind labels it. I'm not confident here. But you didn't lose confidence. You just lost familiarity. That changes everything. Because now, confidence is not a personality trait. It's a side effect of repetition. And your mind doesn't want you to realize that. Because if you do, you can't keep blaming your identity. You have to look at your actions. Now here's where it gets deeper. Your mind doesn't just lie about what confidence is. It lies about how it's built. It tells you something that sounds logical. I'll take action when I feel ready. That sounds smart, right? Safe, responsible. But it's actually backwards, because feeling ready is something your brain gives you after it has evidence, not before. Let's break that down. When you've done something multiple times, your brain goes, okay, we've survived this before. So it reduces the fear, and then you feel more relaxed. And then you say, now, I feel confident. But what caused that feeling? Not thinking, not waiting, not preparing endlessly. Action, repeated action. That's the only thing that created it. But your mind hides that part. It shows you the end result and convinces you that's where you should start. That's like expecting to feel strong before you ever lift a weight. It doesn't work like that. And this is where people get stuck for years. They wait to feel confident before doing something. But they need to do something before they feel confident, so they wait and wait and wait, and nothing changes. Now let's talk about something even more subtle. There's a voice in your head, and it sounds like you. But it's not always telling the truth, especially when it comes to confidence. That voice doesn't say, you're experiencing uncertainty, which is normal in new situations. No, it says, you're awkward, you're bad at this. People are judging you. You're not like them. And the more you listen to that voice, the more real it feels. But here's the problem. That voice is not designed to help you grow. It's designed to protect you from risk and Growth always looks like risk to your brain. So every time you step outside your comfort zone, that voice gets louder, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something unfamiliar and your brain wants you to go back. Now imagine two people in the same situation. Both feel nervous. Both have that voice in their head. Both feel the same discomfort. But one of them believes the voice, and the other one doesn't. One listens and stops. The other hears it, but moves anyway. Fast forward a few months. One person says, "I'm just not confident." The other says, "I've become more confident." But they started in the same place. The only difference was whether they treated their thoughts as commands or just noise. That's a huge shift, because now confidence is not about how you feel. It's about how you respond to how you feel. Let's go even deeper. Your brain is constantly predicting outcomes. Before you even act, it runs simulations. What if I mess up? What if people laugh? What if I look stupid? And because your brain wants to avoid negative outcomes, it focuses more on worst-case scenarios. That's why your thoughts feel so negative sometimes. Not because you're broken, but because your brain is biased toward caution. But here's the twist. Your brain doesn't calculate probability. It calculates possibility. It doesn't ask, how likely is this to happen? It asks, can this happen? And if the answer is yes, it treats it like a real threat. So even if there's a 1% chance of embarrassment, your brain reacts like it's guaranteed. And that reaction creates fear. And that fear feels like lack of confidence. But it's not. It's just your brain overestimating risk. Now think about how this affects your life. Every opportunity, every conversation, every chance to grow gets filtered through this system. And if your brain sees even a small risk, it tries to stop you. But here's the part your mind never tells you. Avoiding discomfort doesn't protect your confidence. It slowly destroys it. Because every time you avoid something, you're teaching your brain that situation was dangerous. And next time, your brain reacts even stronger, and your world becomes smaller. You speak less. You try less. You show less of yourself. And over time, it feels like you're losing confidence. But you're not losing it. You're training your brain to avoid. Now flip that. Every time you act despite discomfort, you send a different signal. That wasn't as dangerous as we thought. And slowly, your brain adjusts. The fear reduces, the resistance decreases, and you start feeling more comfortable. Not because you forced confidence, but because you changed your experience. This is how confidence is actually built. Not through thinking, not through motivation, not through waiting, through evidence. Real, repeated evidence. But your mind doesn't like this process because it's slow, it's uncomfortable, it doesn't give instant results, and your brain prefers immediate relief. That's why it keeps pushing you to avoid. Now let's talk about something people rarely admit, even the most confident people. You see, still feel insecure sometimes, still feel nervous, still have doubts. The difference is, they don't treat those feelings as stop signs. They treat them as background noise. Imagine driving a car. There's noise from the engine, from the road, from outside, but you don't stop driving because of it. You keep going. That's how confident people operate. The noise is still there, but it doesn't control their direction. Now imagine if every time you heard a strange sound while driving, you stopped the car completely. That's what most people do with their thoughts. One negative thought, and they stop everything. I'm not ready. I'll do it later. This isn't for me. But those thoughts are not instructions. They're just signals, and signals are not always accurate. Now here's where everything comes together. Your mind has been lying to you in 3 major ways. First, it told you confidence is a feeling. Second, It told you you need that feeling before. Action third. It made you believe your thoughts are facts, but none of those are true. Confidence is not a feeling. It's a pattern of behavior. You don't need confidence to act. You need action to build confidence, and your thoughts are not facts. They're just interpretations. Once you see this clearly, you stop waiting. You stop asking, "Do I feel confident?" And you start asking, "What would I do if I didn't need to feel confident first?" That question changes everything, because suddenly, you realize how many things you've been delaying. Not because you can't do them, but because you've been waiting for the wrong signal. Now imagine living like this. You feel nervous, but you speak anyway. You feel unsure, but you try anyway. You feel fear, but you move anyway. At first it feels uncomfortable, then it feels manageable, then it starts to feel normal. And one day, you look back and think, "I used to be scared of this." That's confidence, not something you find, something you build. And here's the final truth your mind doesn't want you to realize. You don't need to eliminate fear to become confident. You just need to stop obeying it. Because fear is not the opposite of confidence. Avoidance is. The moment, you stop avoiding, you start growing. The moment you start growing, you start building confidence. Not perfectly, not instantly, but consistently. So the next time your mind tells you you're not confident enough, don't argue with it, don't fight it, just notice it. And take one small action anyway, because that's how you break the lie. Not by changing how you feel, but by changing what you do. And once you do that enough times, you won't need to chase confidence anymore because you'll realize something powerful. It was never missing. It was just waiting for you to act.